It doesn't matter where I travel, I love the mornings. And it's not just because I enjoy taking photos. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's because I'm trying to get the most out of life. And I don't think getting the most out of life is some big mysterious formula. I think it's simple. You just get the most out of each day and life will take care of itself. I also don't think I'm the only one. Again in Timor-Leste, as I have seen all over the world, local people getting up early, coming out of their houses and starting their day. I think it doesn't get any simpler than this. These are the people trying to get the most out of life. So I thought, before I even start talking about my day in Balibo and our motorbike ride from Balibo to Railuli, I'd share with you my Balibo morning. So it's the 30th of August 2022 and I'm standing in Balibo at the soccer oval that's just behind the main town centre, I suppose, just down from the fort, under the big massive tree that's here. And I thought I'd just give them a reflections on the morning, what I'm seeing. I have been told it's a public holiday in Timor today. I haven't read that, so I'll have to find out, because we were going to go walking around the town centre today, but if it's a public holiday, obviously it'll be shut. So we rode up from Dili yesterday, and all day yesterday, and the first thing this morning that I've noticed waking up after staying in the fort hotel overnight are the smells, and how the smells of the area cooking on the sides of the streets and the animals and everything, how the smells have started to trigger lots of memories. I've quite enjoyed it. I've quite enjoyed recognising those smells and odours that I just literally haven't smelt for 21 years. Thing that I also remember that I've seen this morning is the locals, how they just come out of their house and they just sort of wander around the town seeing what's going on with the bondia. Every time you pass one, there's a lot of locals just over behind me on the edge of the main street in town. There's the bus stop there. They've all been waiting there for the bus. A few buses have gone past. A few scooters come down, dropping people off. The roosters. Anyone that's been to Timor before will remember the roosters. And the dogs. The dogs are out this morning. Awesome to come back, see the place, see the changes in the fort, changes in the local town. The Balibo 5 house was a wreck and a ruin when I was here last. It's all been done up now. Over here behind me, there's actually a little walking tours, mountain bike riding tours shop that's next door to it. We're going to go and talk to that guy this morning. And the fort's changed a fair bit. It's not the Australian Army headquarters anymore. It's got a phenomenal restaurant in it. The food's amazing, and you get a cold beer. The rooms are really good and comfortable, and the staff are super friendly. It's great staying there last night. We're staying again tonight, so we're going to stay in Balibo 2 nights, and then tomorrow head down towards Maliana. That's great. I don't want to be late for breakfast, so I might have to head back up. Well, I'll talk a bit more about the Balibo fort later, because soon as we finished breakfast, Ben and I were pretty keen to jump on our bikes and head out for a ride. We were going west, towards West Timor, about 10k from Balibo to a small town called Railuli. It was a road Ben had driven many times on his first trips to Timor-Leste, and we thought what better place to go and try and meet some real, genuine local Timorese people. But before we go, our little scooters needed some fuel. We would do this just before we left Balibo. Pull over on the side of the road and buy some fuel off the locals, just like we would do many more times on this trip. If you ever find yourself in Timor-Leste on an adventure ride, refueling's pretty easy. On the sides of the roads everywhere you drive outside houses are small stands with water bottles containing fuel. All you got to do is pull over and park next to the stand. It won't take too long before a local comes out of their house and asks you how many fuel bottles you need. They even take the time to siphon the fuel through a stocking or some other garment to make sure that there's no particles in it. From memory, in Balibo we paid about $2 per litre, and we never had any trouble with fuel on our whole ride. My one tip though is to refuel at the start of the day. By the end of the day, in most places, generally the little stands will be sold out. Now with the bikes topped up with fuel, we were off. Up over the hill past the old helo pad and down towards West Timor and the village of Railuli. The 15 kilometres of road from Balibo to Railuli was pretty good. Dirt in a lot of sections, but it was still vehicle capable, so easy work for the little KLX 150s. We stopped a couple of times on the way out, once so Ben could reminisce under a tree where he once took a team photo, and another time to watch and chat with the locals as they were building a house. But even with a few stops, taking some photos and a bit of talking to the locals, it still only took us a couple of hours to get out to Railuli.
Yeah, obrigado.
By mid-morning, it was good to arrive at the Railuli schoolhouse. Spent a bit of time with Ben, reminiscing about when he was there last, what life was like, where they used to park the cars, and how they had called it the Red Roof Schoolhouse.
This is it.
We didn't hang around at the school too long though. After noting it was still in use with the locals, and probably only empty because of the public holiday, we decided to jump back on the bikes and go exploring the area, to see if we could find and visit the actual village of Railuli. It didn't take long to find the village, and when we got there, I thought to myself how things haven't changed too much over the years at all. The Timorese people were still hugely welcoming when we arrived, everyone coming out to say hi. Even though we didn't speak much Tedom and their English wasn't real good, we still had a great conversation and were invited in to have coffee. What I did find a little bit funny was as we were sitting down chatting about life with the older men in the village, and the ladies brought coffee around to us, there was a bit of a protest by the younger men working nearby on the timber. It didn't take long for the ladies to go back and get more coffee and bring it out for the young men too. Visiting Railuli was another experience to add to the long list of growing highlights of the trip already. But it didn't take very long for Ben and I to finish our coffees and exhaust our very limited Tedom, and we thought it was about time to head off again. The ride back to Balibo was smooth, no problems at all. One stop along the way to chat to some locals in their small shop next to their house, and then when I arrived, I headed straight up to the old helo pad that used to be there, just to check out the view and take a few photos.
You speaking English?
Oh, he speaks English. Call the English.
Andy, why are you not practicing? Practice English.
estuda inglês e a escola?
Escola. Balibo.
A escola e a Balibo.
Arriving back into Balibo early that afternoon, we noticed how quiet the town was, and it wasn't till later that day that we realised the reason for the public holiday was the fact that the 30th of August was the anniversary of the referendum and the interfet mission in Timor-Leste. It seemed like a good afternoon just to hang around the fort and check it out. Built by the Portuguese, the Balibo fort is the largest and one of the most intact forts in Timor-Leste. And while the exact date it was built is unknown, it is believed it was constructed between 1700 and 1750, which makes it the second oldest living fort in the country. During the 19th century, the fort has been continually used as a military stronghold, occupied by the Portuguese, the Japanese, the Indonesians and the Australians after they arrived in 1999. Since the completion of the Australian mission and peace coming to Timor-Leste, the fort has now started another life. With the departure of foreign militaries from the country, the fort now operates as a hotel and training establishment for locals who want to enter the tourism industry. Not only does it have comfortable rooms, but also a great restaurant and a swimming pool. The other thing that I think they've done really well at the Fort Hotel is the conversion of the old Portuguese prison into a museum dedicated to the Timorese veterans. The museum contains a lot of information about the country's history, the Portuguese, the Japanese and Australian fighting during World War II, the Indonesian occupation and the resistance leading to independence, and also the Australian peacekeepers that were present during the early 2000s. For Australian veterans that served in Timor-Leste from 1999 onwards, I highly recommend, if you're in the country, visiting the museum.
This is the story of two companies of Australian soldiers, separated by over 60 years. Their actions inextricably bound by a debt of honour.
Now, as our day in Balibo drew to an end, we hardly had time to reflect on it. Over dinner, we discussed our plans for the next day. After breakfast, we would be spending an hour with Mario from Balibo Trails, who would take us on a tour around the town and tell us some of the history. And once we said goodbye to our new friend Mario and the town of Balibo, we would be back on our bikes and heading off down towards Maliana to see where else we could explore in Timor-Leste.
Start again.
Do you like this bike, Ben?
Yeah, I think I'd potentially trade it in for the one-on-one.
Back in the day, mate, I reckon it was overtaking you on this track.
Yeah.
But it probably wouldn't overtake an M113 anymore.
It's got a custom upholstered seat there. If you look at that.
You wouldn't want to ride this seat from Dili to Balibo.
No.
That'd be a long day.
The Aquos.
Looks like it's certainly worth its $100 it got paid for it.
Yeah.